We are here. I have returned. So now let's take a look at what we have. We have this. I've already started building a register page, which is only this. That's all I have. We want to put together the registration form, but we want the main page, the home page, excuse me, to be the login form. Well, we're going to get into that in just a second. There was something I wanted to do, and I forgot. Excuse me, jeez. There is a piece of the profiles table I want to create. I forgot to do here. So, now you don't have to do this if you don't want. I'm just going to do this with you because I want to show you a little bit of JavaScript magic, if you will. After last name, let's add another thing, and let's call it initials. And initials is going to be a varchar, and it's going to be 2. And that's it. Something else that we have to do is image is going to be nullable. So that's something that we have to change. If you don't change an image is nullable, you're going to get a bunch of nasty errors. So let's just change that to nullable. So now it can be a null since we're not going to be uploading or inputting anything in the images right away. We're going to be doing that later. Everything else is fine. We don't have to worry about anything else because of the association feature that CakePHP has. We also started making the models, but we only have one entity and one table. We want to make it a little bit more than just one entity and one table, especially with us wanting to implement profiles with the user. Let's do a profile entity, shall we? Let's go profile. And again, the entities have to be the same name as what you have in the table. You could tell the entity or tell the table what table you're looking for. But CakePHP has everything so built in, as I've said, it's very rigid. In order to do that, you have to go through putting arrays within arrays. It's a mess. So name everything the same thing as you do in the table, saves you a lot of trouble. I don't see why you would do anything else. So everything that's in the PHP, MyAdmin, MySQL, SQL, whatever table, just name it the same thing because CakePHP was built specifically for the names in the database table to reflect the names in the controller, the table, and the entity itself, or themselves. Namespace. Again, I like to type things out. I don't like to copy-paste. Model entity. Use cake, ORM, object, random mapping, whatever the hell it is. Entity. Then we make the class profile, extends, entity. And same thing, we just go private, accessible equals, and we want this to be all to be true. And we want there to be a user, so we can reference both sides. We also want there to be a detail, which we're going to get to, which is true, and note, which is true, and ID is false. Now let me just double check myself. User protected. I'm sorry, it's protected, not private. Private, you wouldn't be able to access it. My fault. Protected just means that only certain things can access it. That's why you saw it go dark, because private, no, only that specific entity can access it. So all user detail, no, we're good. Actually, wait, this is the profile. I don't need any of those. I thought that was customer for a second. But sometimes you'll want the user to reference the profile, and sometimes you want the profile to reference the user. That's why we're going to do that association. And from there, in Cake, you have to also make a table. And the table is going to be a plural of profiles. Profile. And we'll go namespace, app, model, table, use, cake, ORM, table. You can use other things, and in fact, we're going to also use cake, validator. We got to put that in there as well. Class profiles table. Extend. He said extend table. And with this, we want to initialize. We want the public function initialize. And again, if you have all those extensions of Cake and everything, it'll do that for you automatically. I just want to explain this to anyone. You don't really need to, if you're going to make an array, if you're going to pass an array, you don't really need to say array. That's sort of common practice. You don't need to do that. You can just put config. But this :void is saying that you're not returning anything. That's what that means. And of course, we want to this. What was it again? It's load behavior, or I don't know, what was it again? Ah, geez. Add behavior, that's what I meant. I knew that, I was hoping you did. Add behavior. Timestamp, so we can get UTC time. We also want to say that this belongs to users. As we already said, that the users table has 1 profiles. Grammatically correct. Then we're going to do the public function of validation default, which of course returns a validator variable, which we're going to make right now. Validator. These elements, I want them to actually be required. And what happens, the HTML5 and the way that we're going to put these forms together, and like I said, when it comes to forms like this, I just wanted to show you a means to use CodeIgniter and Laravel in the sense that you can have real-time. We're going to do real-time updates and stuff like that with the notes, obviously, but we're not going to do that with any kind of form processing. We're just going to use the built-in form functionality. You can sort of build a form, but the thing is you need the CSRF token, and in order to do that, again, with CakePHP, because it's so rigid, it's to kind of do it without an actual form is just, and they give you so many options, you'll see, to make it that you can build a form any way you want with their form helper. To deviate from it is just a pain in the ass, so we're not going to do that. But what we want to do is we want to go, what was it? It is not empty string, I believe. Yeah, not empty string. Remember, that's first name. And the error message we're going to put in is enter a fucking first. We also want to add into it min length. And again, you have to name everything the same. The naming conventions are very stuck. You have to name everything the same. You want to have somebody with at least 3 letters in their first name. Your first name cannot be less than 3 characters. And max length. First name, I think is 50, right? And then the error message will be your first name. Now, I'm not going to check that. You can check that all you want. More. And you can do tests. I don't do tests. They make no sense to me, so I don't use them. We also want to do last. Let me just double check. Again, folks, as somebody mentioned, they would have preferred me kind of editing this stuff out. The reason why I do this stuff on screen is because I don't feel like editing it. And on top of it, I'm just double checking myself. You don't need to worry about this, okay? And I do apologize if I'm taking up too much of your time doing this, but I just got to make sure that I have it correct. Let's see. Not empty string, min length. Right. Okay, so that we're good. Not empty string. And as you can see, all these error messages or these error all these error templates they all pop up for you. Last name we're going to go with at least 2. I've seen 2 letter last names. Not be less than 2. I mean, it's kind of stupid because it's basically, it's more or less saying that that it's required, so you need it. Max length last name. because what's one character? We'll test it out, but your last name cannot be more than 60. An easy way to do that is just to put max length, min length in the HTML. And again, you could do that. Now, one thing that I didn't do in the last one was I didn't add email in there, and I didn't add initials are not going to weren't in there, and what else wasn't in there? I think that's about it, right? Well, image we're going to do that some other way. With email, we're going to have the HTML do it, like verify that it's an email, but we're going to just make sure that it's not an empty string, and we're going to get specific characters. Enter and the min length will be 5. Email address cannot be less than 5 characters. If you noticed in the users table, we did not, and I'll give it a max length of 150. We did not enter in anything about required for the username and the password, and the reason is because we'll do that in the front end, or not the front end, we'll do that in the form, and we'll do that in the controller. Also because, for whatever reason, they don't have implemented in there anything to verify usernames are not being duplicated and stuff. You have to kind of build it yourself, and it's just, I mean, you can look it up on cakephp.org. You can figure it out on your own. I'm just giving you sort of an introduction so you get an idea of how these things work. But really, anything further, if you want to delve deeper into it, you can always look it up on cakephp.org. The characters. Let's also get the initials in there. I mean, it's required. I mean, we're going to automatically do it, but not numeric. Is there something about not numeric? I don't think there is. Hold on. Let's take a look. Let me just double check. Not numeric. I don't want any numbers in there. Alphabetic. Whatever. Alphanumeric means number or letter. I don't want that. Is there any kind of check? I don't think we need to check for initials, but we do need to check for, what's the other one? Email. No, I guess we're okay. I could do one for images, but again, we're going to do that in the form and in the controller. So I think we're pretty okay. First name, last name. Yeah, I think we're good. So let me put any other further checks we're going to use in the controller, as I've said, and then we have to return validator. Okay. Let me look at my users table. Let me see. Okay, username, we did the min length and the max length and all that. That's fine. Anyway, because I like to get things done, let's add the customer entity. Remember, entity is one entrance in, or one entrance in the table. The table is the actual table itself. They separate it. That was more a Symfony thing. A lot of these frameworks are built off one another. So Symfony did separate everything entity and table wise. So entity is just like one entrance or one entity in the table. So it's one customer or one detail or one profile, as opposed to the table, which is all of them put together. This is a way to sort of break down what each entrance can do, or entry can do, and as opposed to the entire table having specific set of rules. If you wanted to do a little bit more with these entities and everything, then it would make more sense as to why they're separated. Again, I would kind of use Cake, but I really wouldn't. I like it. I really like Cake, don't get me wrong. Hold on. Wait. No, ORM, sorry. And once more, namespace just means the folder. It just kind of breaks the folder down so you can just get to that. Like if you would go to app model entity, it means that we're starting from here when we're looking things up. So now if you want to break it down even further, then you would have to go through. You would go through like the different directories within that directory. You don't have to keep typing in like app model entity blah 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 blah. Class customer extends entity, and we know what we're going to do here. We're going to do protected, bare accessible. Let's go like this. What do we want? We want to be able to write in all of them. We want to be able to reference, I guess, user. And we want to be able to reference, this is the one, detail. And we want to be able to reference note. And we want to be able to then say ID is false. You cannot write, you cannot access the ID. The ID is automatically done. And once more, we go to the toggle. Unfortunately, we're going to take up all this time doing this. Once we get deeper into actually putting, using all these entities and tables and everything, it goes a lot faster. You'll see. Like the registration is going to take like a minute. It's not going to take that long at all. And the login is going to be different because, like I said, you can download the authentication and everything like that, but it's a little bit of a disaster. So I don't do it. I like to make my own stuff. You can make whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. I like to make my own stuff because yeah, we're gonna do validator. I like to make my own stuff because this way I know how to fix it if things go wrong, typically. And we're going to publicly function the initialization, and we're going to say this add behavior. I finally figured it out. Timestamp. And we're going to say that this belongs to users, and that this has one details, and this has many notes. We'll get into the checks once we get into the customers. Let's do it that way. We'll not worry about that right now. And we'll worry about the details later as well. This is more because I'm going to reference the customers and everything as we move along, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And we put all of it together here. I did customers. I didn't miss anything, right? We got first name, last name created, and then the details, address, state, zip code, birthday, age, blah, 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 signed ID, status, yada, yada. Okay, so everything's all good. Now, let's make our form. So, where is register? We have the template, so we don't have to worry about the doc type and all that stuff. All we got to do is what we want to put in here, we just got to put in here. The first thing I want to do is I want to go div class equals background, wrapper, and we'll call it register wrapper. Unfortunately, we don't have this kind of open and close our tab itself, so we're going to have to do that ourselves. And we'll do the header. I'll do header 3 class equals main heading. And we'll say register below. And we'll put a div class here of register form, I guess, right? Just in case. Want to break it down a little bit more. Now, when we want to make a form in CakePHP, we have to open echo tags, which is the PHP and then the equals. And we go this form create. What do we want to create? A user. Now, at this point, you can also break things down. This is actually a function that has many parameters available. We're going to just create a user. We don't have to do anything else with that. And then we close it out. But, let me just double check myself, because I have to double check myself about everything. All right, there we go. But, when we look at, say, and this is one of the things I do like about the form structure in Cake, control. When we do something like form control, now we have access to so many different things. So, for instance, like this, you can say, you can put into the brackets. The first thing you got to do is you got to name it. Let me just double check. The name of this is going to be profile.initials. This is telling, again, based on the tables that we put in here, the naming conventions and everything. This is going to tell Cake that if we look at the profile, which is linked in association with users and everything, and now that we've put in the table that we can access the profiles, we've also put in the entity that we can access the profile. With that in tow, we can now go to profile initials, meaning that we're referencing the profiles table and the tab initials. And now, whatever we put in here, we can then have it load automatically. So we don't have to do, like, remember Laravel, we did that before event where whenever you made a profile, or you could do it during it, you could just say, like, you put this information into the profiles table when you do the registration form, everything. We don't have to do that. All we have to do is say to the form structure, and we probably could do that in Laravel. I don't know. I just found it easier to make forms on my own. But we could say form control, meaning that we're going to have their styling of form control. So you have, remember we did it in the Laravel one, if you watch my Laravel introduction, I did a thing where I called it like form area, and it just spaced things out and had its own error messaging and everything. That's like this. So when you say form control, it spaces it out, it puts the other things, it kind of like makes them into paragraphs or whatever, so that they automatically return to the next line. You have space, and you have its own error messaging area. That's what you say with form control. Now in an array, thank you, we can go type hidden. I mean, that's hidden. We can also say that the ID equals, and I'm going to call this ID register initials. That's all we need to do. Okay? If I were to save this, I'm going to show you exactly what we've put together. And I'm hoping that I'm not taking too long for you guys. But when I hit refresh, first off, look at, this is the form that we've created. that's what our header is going to look like, and that's the background. And I'm going to keep it like that. It's a little bit dramatic, but that's okay. If we go here to the body, register form, look what it's created for us. Action register, this is the page. The char set is accepted. The post, method is post. And if you go here, div style, display none, whatever, right here, input profile, in parentheses, initials, and there's the ID. Everything's all set. Now, we're going to go even further. Now we're going to say, this form, we're referencing the form object, control again, profile dot first name. And within that, we don't need to type. We already know what type it is, but there are other elements that we can tell it to do. Like, for instance, we can say placeholder, and we can say first name. Then we can comment it. We can say label, false. We can also say then ID, and that will be register first. And then we can even put an onKey up function, which we're going to call input initials. And do that. Now again, there's our first name, right? And if we look here, and we go to the form, it says input text required, right? Profile first name, on key up, input initials, register first, it's all there. And we can do the same thing for the last name. If I don't put, like if I keep label, it's automatically labeled true. If I keep that, what do I call this? Okay, register last. And I'm also going to put the onKeyUp function here. Same thing. You can do that. It's one function that you can reuse. It's JavaScript. It's anything, with anything you could just keep reusing functions, as long as it knows where to look. If I don't put label false, you then get a label. Now, I don't like that. If you want that label, that's cool. I don't like labels. Labels just look nasty. Sometimes I think they're necessary, but with this, it looks too big and goofy. I don't do that. We also want the email address, obviously. Now, the email address has nothing to do with the initials. The initials are the initials that are going to upload, and we're going to put in the profile and everything. And we're going to then have in the header. Now, profile.email. We also want to say type equals email. You can put form email here, and then, or just put form control and just put, well, if you put email, it's going to be. But the reason why I'm putting type email is so that the HTML can verify whether or not it's an actual email address. If there were a way for us, or if there was a way for us to easily implement whether or not it was a legit email address with Cake's validator, I would put that in there, and then you would see if we just kept it form control, it would actually give you, or even if we made it a type email, the HTML type email, it would give you a certain error message. You'll see what I'm talking about when it happens, but we'll get into that when it happens. Email address, I'll show you. I think that's, I know, yeah, label. We're done with all the profile stuff. Now, let's go with the actual user stuff, which we only have to put in username, and we'll go placeholder username, and we'll go label false. Make sure that's a $sign. Why do I keep hitting the pound sign? And we'll do password. Either head of security and your password is password. Type, of course. The reason why I do control, and then you could do like form password, but then it's not gonna bring it down to the next. The next form entry will not be put down into the next line. It'll be like on one line, so I don't like that. Placeholder password and label equals false, and then of course we go this. I thought I backspaced that. This form control conf password type, so we don't screw everything up, is still password. Placeholder confirm password label false. Then we are going to need a button form, and I think I just got to put, let me just double check. Yeah, button, just button. In Cake, this is how you kind of echo out within the register, within the allotted object areas. And then we go this, form, close. So it knows how to end. It knows where it ends. Oh wait, it was, what is it? End, sorry. Always double check yourself. There you go. There's your form. Nice, right? We didn't have to do that much styling. I probably, yeah. Let me change that shadow a little bit. That shadow's a little too much. Let's just go 2, 3, 3. It's too much. Let's go like that. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay. It's still, I guess, I don't know. It seems a little, let's lower that shadow a bit. Let's go like 2. Or maybe make the color a little brighter. Yeah, I mean, that's better. That's better. This form looks pretty good. I don't know if I want to make it this tight, so still don't know why that logo hasn't changed. Still don't know why that logo hasn't changed. I made the base, we haven't touched that yet. We'll get to that later. Let's go to my default. Now it has this here, build class logo. Ahref class logo. Why are you not changing color, you cock? Anyway, main.js is there. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to make the function, let me just do some JavaScript for a second. Profile initials, I believe. Is that what I called it? Let me just double check. I don't really need you right now, and I don't really need you right now. I do have the login. We'll kind of work with that for a bit. Control, yeah, I don't need you right now. I definitely don't need you right now, and I definitely don't need you right now. So I call this register form. Let me think. I want to make the register form not so big. Like not so wide. So let's go register form. I'll go with 700 pixels. And I'll probably do a little bit of it. Let me see if, no, not max resolution. Let me see if I margin this, if I center it, if it looks stupid or not. So it just looks like it's a small form. Isn't that what I called it, register form? Yeah, register form. Oh, did I not implement that in the default? I did not implement that in the default. Login. We're only going to use the default for... that looks kind of stupid. Hold on. Maybe not so thin. We're only going to use, yeah, that's better. We're only going to use this for the registration and the login. I want to change this fucking color. What are we at in terms of time? Oh my god, alright, let me stop here. We'll continue this when I come back.